Yes. Yes.
Perfect. So thank you very much for this invitation. I really pleasure to share this moment and to contribute to this event, Franco-Italien or Italo-Francese. So my presentation is focused on this ongoing project on the scientific study, multidisciplinary study of Notre Dame. So as you know, the fire that devastated the cathedral in 2019 was not only heartbreaking event, but it also represented an unparalleled opportunity for the scientific community for the interdisciplinary study, and especially in the digital age. While the scientific priority has been to recover knowledge about the architectural elements pre-fire, the scientific efforts have also been oriented towards the extraction of valuable information from the preserved materials for archaeological, for conservation and restoration purposes. And beyond the study of materials, modeling systems allowing to study the entire site from a geometric, the structural, and the acoustic perspective. And finally, as you will know, Notre Dame is more than just a physical structure. It represents a shared heritage that evokes emotions across society. And this is, as you can imagine, another important facet of this global study. So the National Scientific Site, Notre Dame, was promoted by the CNRS, the Ministry of Culture. Unites over 170 researchers today, coming from 50 research units and working in 9 working groups, all focused on various aspects of the site, including materials like wood, metal, stone, stained glass, but also decoration, structure, acoustics, heritage emotions, and finally, the digital data. So an interdisciplinary and diachronic approach is then crucial to face all these challenges. And this means to introduce new ways for working on the same object to produce a collective endeavor. But there is a sentence pronounced during the open ceremony of the first G20 cultural ministers meeting 2 years ago in Rome that resume very well, to my opinion, this common challenge. So it's time to introduce what may be called digital humanism, in which archaeologists, anthropologists, architects, historians, philosophers, lawyers, neuroscientists, and psychologists work side by side with chemists, physicists, and computer scientists to define a new semantics for understanding the complexity of reality. So it's a very, very well-balanced sentence, in my opinion. And if we analyze this sentence by looking at the scientific literature on digital cultural heritage, 4 major gaps need to be addressed. First, there is a semantic gap, because there is a lot of digital data on cultural heritage, but much of it lacks interpretation, human interpretation. So we need innovative methods to produce meaningful digital resources. Second, there is a memory gap, because even with advancement in knowledge engineering, in knowledge formalization, applying these techniques is difficult due to subjective sources, informal chronicles, and specialized cultural heritage knowledge that characterize the scientific activities in cultural heritage. Then there is also a data correlation gap. While some studies offer today some ways that we already saw from the previous presentation from our colleagues from CNR, for example, for aggregating 3D or 3D heritage object observation and studies, we need today some semi-automatic or some automatic way to link, to interconnect and correlate these resources. And finally, there is a technological gap, because the problem is, how do we effectively connect the collaborative analysis, the collaborative study of different resources belonging to us, a physical object, by ensuring a balance between the human and the computer input. So on one hand, we know that studying a material is a complex process that involves collaboration between multiple stakeholders from different disciplines. And we also know that this joint effort addresses various aspects and various complexities belonging to the disciplinary fields, because the cultural heritage brings together heritage preservation, humanities, social sciences, and experimental sciences. So on the other hand, it's obvious that data in a general way can play a crucial role today, spanning from, in the case of Notre Dame, the data span from centuries before the fire and to the hours of the disaster, then the years of our restoration project. So the working group I lead is then building since several years like a digital ecosystem to connect the physical structure and the accumulated knowledge, accumulated data and knowledge, fostering multidisciplinary, fostering also intersectoral collaboration. Our approach integrates some state-of-the-art computational modeling and digitization methods and tools by trying to encompass not only data, but the actors, the activities, and the material objects within an integrated platform for the co-production of knowledge. Our first key concept is the digital twin. This is essential for the documentation and the collective study, as we must integrate multiple geometric and visual data from the past, the present, the future states of the building, so that we can compare data on the cathedral's undamaged and destroyed parts and extract information for studying and virtual rebuilding missing sections. During the project, we introduced some custom 4D scanning devices for digitizing debris removal operations and for preserving the spatial location of all elements within this particular spatial temporal framework. And additionally, we developed a doc digitization device for quickly collecting high-definition 3D models of various remains collection. And today we are still developing new devices for digitizing thousands of items, and we will continue in the future in order to accompany the research and documentation efforts, especially belonging to recent archaeological discoveries. So this highlights that our approach presents a shift from the fragmented, the episodic scans of a building or a collection of items into what we can consider like an integrated digital twin, an evolving representation of a material object that encompasses data produces over time according to several activities. And by using an innovative reality-based annotation approach, for example, we can project data from multiple stakeholders, purposes, and levels of description into hybrid 2D and 3D spatial representations. For example, this has allowed us to gather and spatially locate data related to the post-fire diagnosis, including the conservation state of stones and structures, the deformations of surfaces, the previous restoration, and urgent intervention. And this approach provides a detailed view of the challenges today addressed in the restoration worksite, but it also serves as a scaffold for new levels of study and interpretation by adding views from scientists interested in construction technique, stratigraphy, material analysis, and so on. And there are data that are coming from the ongoing studies every day. So this introduced the potential of a permanent digital representation of a material object that can integrate new data acquisitions, analysis, and enrichment related to the multifaceted study of an object. Another key concept in our project is what we call the digital continuum. During the first urgent interventions after the fire, we encountered a complex puzzle of thousands of remains to be recovered, sorted, and stored. For example, we managed the documentation of ribstones, the buswars, or other stone elements through their various states, connecting data from recovery operations, the temporary storage, on-site archaeological study, and the in-laboratory material analysis. So we introduced some easy-to-deploy documentation processing methods to support what we can consider like a day-to-day data production within the scientific worksite, and in order to facilitate the sorting, the cataloging, and the access to this data. The notion of digital continuum applies to both the technical but intellectual activities involved into the data production. So, for example, we can trace the path from the sampling of a metal collapse on the cathedral to the scientific study of its material into the laboratory, passing through element sections, microscopy, imaging, chemical treatment, and interpretations derived from the observation and from the data analysis. And this approach allows for a close linkage between digital resources and human activities, resulting in significant gains in documentation and knowledge capitalization on the adopted protocols for scientific study. So the technical dimension of our project is not a killer software, is what we consider as an open socio-technical system that brings together users, the developers, and the tools, allowing service to evolve over time and improve their effectiveness. So we've built a platform of tools specifically dedicated to Notre Dame by using software bricks coming from research laboratories, French, and also the CNR ISTI, an Italian one. And all the software are open and reusable and fully based on web technologies. And these bricks cover today the entire data lifecycle, from the data ingestion, the categorical indexing, the management of controlled vocabulary, as well as the 2D, the 3D, and the 4D interactive visualization, also including the semantic notation of this digital representation. So we are today still working in the interlink framework to facilitate the data flow management and the adherence of the data and the tools to the FAIR principles. Our digital ecosystem currently hosts over 100 registered users and integrates data and tools into a secure CNRS very large facility called Humanum, also for the long-term preservation of this data. And after more than 3 years of work, our database includes a vast number of photographs, 3D point clouds, technical drawings, structured 3D models, and documentary sources collected from cultural institutions, but also from laboratories and private companies. The scientific data includes more than 4,000 items that are documented by using a dedicated thesaurus containing today 15,000 vocabulary terms, and more than 10,000 3D annotations represents the current disciplinary looks on the entire building and inform the post-fire spatial location of the remains. So during the project, data have been massively shared between scholars, and it was a success. Also, thanks to the web technological framework that we set up in order to provide access to all the stakeholders. And also for not only from the scientific action, but also from the architects in charge of the restoration. So I will conclude by briefly present the scientific perspectives open by this project. And this scientific perspective we are starting to explore within the ERC project ENDAM Heritage. And this project started 1 year ago and will run for 5 years. So if we consider this initial work done within the Notre Dame action, within the wider sphere of the heritage science, it's clear that the role of digital data should be central in the future years to develop this new semantics to understand the intricacies of the multiplicity studies, so this complexity of the reality. And this is, to my opinion, especially true for cultural heritage domain, where the complexity is not only limited to the physical properties of tangible objects, but also extends to the mechanism of knowledge production that give them their identity as knowledge objects in a scientific perspective, and their meaning as heritage in a cultural perspective. So the joint observation of tangible objects and multidisciplinary studies provides an excellent milieu to explore the collective analysis and the collective interpretation of facts, objects, and phenomena that unite the creation of data and knowledge in this field. So our aim is to link data, observation, and analysis procedures with the interpretation and the description of different aspects of a single intangible entity, navigating through a realm of digital assets that are inherently a complex interplay between material object, actor networks, and their relationships and configurations. So our current work focuses on memory. We are trying to identify new ways for tracing the path that scientists take in the production of knowledge, from their initial questioning to the data production, the analysis and interpretation. And we are trying to introduce ways for memorizing the spatio-temporal location and the nature of the technical and intellectual activities belonging to this data production. While the future steps of our project, probably the risky ones, are about analysis. So we will try in the next years, by analyzing the data, to interlink material objects and objects of knowledge. So we hope that our project will unveil thousands of such overlapping regions of interest in space, in time, in form, and in knowledge domain, to study the way different actors look, describe, and understand the same reality. So this is, as you can easily understand, an ambitious endeavor that aims to create a deeper understanding of cathedral history, its material, its study and restoration process, but above all, the intricate connections between the various points of view coming from the stakeholders involved in a common scientific adventure. So I will finish my presentation with this image on our ongoing works on the n-dimensional data correlation that represents to me the multiple reading and interpretation levels that we can analyze on one of our thousands, hundreds of thousands of photographs stored in our database. And these reading layers combine today spatial regions, morphological attributes, vocabulary terms, user descriptions, research protocols belonging to the same area of study. So this is a simple example of the territory of our future analysis, because as you know, the encounter between an heritage object and a multidisciplinary community is always a stage for the co-production of knowledge. And we believe that our approach will reveal and will probably activate the relationship that link scholars, experiences, object of study, methodological protocols, tools, and data at the level of the Notre Dame scientific site, of course, but also beyond. By crossing disciplinary and sectorial borders towards the creation of what we can consider like the digital commons that we should consider as a new heritage for the future generation. So as explained, I presented a collective work, and in this page you can see the names of all the members of the Digital Data Working Group of this scientific action, as well as the address of a website on which you can find further information on the project. Thank you very much.